Hi, I'm Kaylee, and these are all the books that I read in April. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to reach back here to our Booktuber Shoutout book, and we're going to shout out somebody in here. Today's shout out goes to A Frolic Through Fiction. Their channel will be linked up above and down below, so be sure to go over and subscribe to them. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel, subscribe to my Spanish channel if you want to see this video in Spanish. And let's get straight into the books that I read in April. I read 16 books in April. I read 6 classics, 3 middle grade, 1 fantasy, 3 children's picture books, and 3 graphic novels. So let's start off with the classics. I read the first 2 books of C.S. Lewis's space trilogy, Out of the Silent Planet and Perelandra. I've been reading the trilogy as part of a read-along along with a musical bookworm, so I will link videos to those reviews and to the read-along down below and probably up here someplace. So if you want to hear more in-depth thoughts about C.S. Lewis and the space trilogy, then go over to those videos. I also read Early Days by Miss Reed. When I picked this up, I did not realize that this is actually an autobiography. The author tells the story of her own childhood growing up first in London and then out in the country. She describes her grandparents, her aunts and uncles, and the little joys and sorrows of childhood. I really liked the simple style of this book. It's just very sweet and charming. I enjoyed it and I gave this one 3 stars. I finished rereading the Emily of New Moon trilogy by reading the last book, Emily's Quest. I've already done a full in-depth video review of the entire trilogy, so I will link that up above and down below so you can hear all of my thoughts about Emily. I also read J.M.Barrie's Sentimental Tommy. This is the same author who wrote Peter Pan, so I guess I kind of had expectations and was sort of disappointed. Tommy and his little sister Elspeth live in a poor apartment in London with their mother. But when she dies of consumption, the children go back to her old hometown. Tommy goes to a little school where the teachers have high hopes for his academic success, but he disappoints everyone. Tommy is unlikable and self-centered and arrogant. But then he will do one generous thing, one kind thing that just melts your heart. And then in the next chapter, he's an arrogant jerk again. His little sister Elspeth has no personality whatsoever. She just tags along with Tommy and she has no personality. She's like cardboard. The plot is slow, the writing style is chaotic. But there are a few really hilarious scenes that actually made me laugh out loud in public. And then there are some truly horrendously boring scenes that almost made me DNF the book. Some of it is brilliant, some of it is boring, some of it is completely incomprehensible. I gave it 3 stars. I also read the 6th book in the Aunt Jane's Nieces series, which is Aunt Jane's Nieces and Uncle John. Patsy and Beth go on a cross-country automobile journey with Patsy's father and their Uncle John. And they encounter a disabled young girl who is searching for her lost relative. They decide to help her and the group travels across the Southwest, finding adventure on their way to California. The plot can be a little bit slow with all the descriptions of the traveling and everything. But if you like travel style books, then you would really like this one. And I do like travel style books. There are some exciting scenes in the plot and they have a couple of crazy adventures. There are a lot of really strange and quirky supporting characters that I really enjoyed reading about. One thing that I did not like in this book was the racist attitude towards Native Americans. There are several scenes and some really not okay comments. It's really a shame, and I have Native American history in my heritage, so, but, you know, I just try to ignore it and just enjoy the rest of the story. And I try to be happy about how far our society has come and how much we've grown as a nation out of those outdated ideas. Overall, this book has a few problems, but I do really love Uncle John and the nieces. And my love for those characters allowed me to really enjoy this book. I gave this one 3 stars. And now let's move on to some of the other books that I read. I reread one of my favorite middle grade books, The Secret of Platform 13. The baby prince of a magical land has been stolen in London, and the king and queen have to wait until the portal between those worlds opens again. They wait 9 years before they can send out a rescue team to find their son. This book is so wonderfully inventive and funny. I just love this book more every time I read it. I think I've read it 3, maybe 4 times now. The world building is really imaginative and weird and wild. The characters are interesting. They're all so different. There's an old wizard and a fae and an ogre and a hag. And there are some nice ghosts that help the rescue team along their way. It's such a delight, and I gave it 4 stars. All the rest of the books in this video are books that I received from a publisher or author in exchange for a free and honest review. I read War of Kings and Monsters by Christopher Keane. Nathan has no idea who he is. He is an apprentice caller in the king's house, and he's best friends with Prince Michael. He studies under the master callers to summon Melkai monsters from another world, but the barrier between the world of humans and the world of the Melkai monsters is weakening. So Nathan is sent on a quest to find the other half of a magical key that will restore the barrier between the worlds. I really enjoyed the plot of this book. It is full of fantasy tropes, but I don't mind because I love fantasy tropes. However, I didn't really connect with any of the characters. Their dialogue is kind of awkward. Their personalities just aren't that vivid. And I'm a character-driven reader, so that was a big disappointment for me. But the pacing is fairly good. The action is exciting. But one of my pet peeves is multiple points of view. And this book does do a little bit of head hopping. And that annoyed me. It doesn't do it a lot, but it does do it. Overall, there are a few good things in this book, a few things that I did not enjoy, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. I read The Tiger's Nest, the 5th book in the Explorer Academy series by Trudy Truitt. I don't know how this author keeps churning out these amazing books in this series. Every single book in this series so far has been 5 stars because every book blows my mind, okay? I'm just so in love with the Explorer Academy series. And I keep thinking, okay, we're kind of getting it through into the middle of the, where's that middle book that's like the slump in the series, and so far we have not had a slump. It just keeps getting more amazing as it goes. So in this book, Cruz and his friends are tracking down another clue that his mother left for him before she died. This time they are visiting the Seychelles and India and Bhutan, and oh my goodness, the stakes have never been higher. The spies from the evil Nebula Corporation are closing in, and Cruz begins to doubt if he can trust even his closest friends. There are a lot of plot twists and major revelations in this book. Just when you think it's going to be another formula plot, like, oh yeah, finding the clues, solving the puzzle, la-di-da, and then bam, something insane happens, and it just throws everything into turmoil. It is so fantastic. I just adore these characters. They have some really good development. I love all their different personalities. It's so cool to see how they interact and how they discover their strengths and their weaknesses. Now, one of my favorite side characters dies in this book. No spoilers, but I was bawling my eyes out. I mean, I was crying, like ugly crying, okay? And I mean, I was like whispering, no to the book. Oh my goodness, I was very emotional, okay? I was very emotional. And then it was amazing to see the aftermath of that as the characters are grieving and they're blaming themselves, and like there are emotional consequences in the book. It's not just like, oh, dramatic moment, character dies, and then, we go off on another adventure. Like, I really liked that it was taken very seriously. Of course, in every book in the series, they go traveling all around the world, and I loved the amazing exotic locations in this book. And it was really cool learning about the different conservation efforts in the Seychelles Islands. There's a lot of interesting information about turtle egg poaching and wildlife conservation. I really love the way the writing style balances really serious subject material, but also some humor and some really lighthearted moments. The artwork is also really cool. I love everything about this, and I gave it 5 stars. I read The Dragon in the Library by Louis Stowell. Kit is a little girl who does not like to read. She just can't sit still. She would much rather be climbing trees or, playing with matches or other dangerous things. But her friends Alita and Josh convince her to visit the library with them. Kit discovers magical properties within the books that propel her and her friends into a magical adventure. I loved this book from start to finish. The characters, the plot, the world building, the magic, everything is wonderful. I liked that the plot is simple and straightforward, but it also has a few little surprises in there to keep things fresh and exciting. The writing style is absolutely hilarious. There are all these cute little bits of dialogue and just these really funny scenes that had me laughing. I loved Kit's character. She is wild and reckless, and I loved Alita and Josh. They are bookish and smart, and I really, really connected with them. I think Josh is probably my favorite character because he is so meticulous and he likes to make a lot of lists. And you know me, I'm all about the lists. I mean, every chapter is just a delight. I finished the entire book in one day. I could not stop reading. I don't know, it was just a refreshing, charming story. It gave me warm fuzzies in my heart. I don't know what else to say. This book made me believe in magic, and I gave it 5 stars. And now let's go on to the graphic novels that I read. I read The Sprite and the Gardener. Wisteria is a little sprite who is newly moved into this neighborhood. The sprites that live in this neighborhood just let humans do all of the gardening, so they have completely lost the ancient art of using their magic to help plants to grow. But Wisteria begins experimenting with her budding power, and she finds that she can make a difference in one small garden. This graphic novel is so adorable. All the little sprites are so beautiful and sweet. I really loved the delicate art style and the pastel color schemes. Each panel is just blossoming with these exquisite little details. The plot is fairly simple as Wisteria kind of discovers her powers and her magic. There's not really a lot going on in the plot, but it's just a very cute and gentle story. This whole book is such a delight. I gave it 5 stars. I read Bronte by Manuela Santoni. This graphic novel begins when the Bronte sisters have just returned from Belgium after completing their additional education. Charlotte convinces her sisters to try to publish a volume of their poetry. Their brother Branwell is an opium addict and an alcoholic, and their father Patrick has failing health. So the sisters try to make some money with their writing in order to support their family. The story takes extreme liberties with the actual history, to the point where very little of their real lives were actually reflected in this book. I really hated the way that the sisters' personalities were represented. They are written as being foul-mouthed and belligerent and antisocial. And somehow that is presented to the reader as their passion, when really they're just being mean and rude in this book. I've read biographies of the Bronte sisters, and this doesn't line up with any other work that I've read about their lives. And I just found it very distasteful. I also found it odd that so much of the book focuses on Branwell and his bad behavior and his addictions. He's violent towards his father and sisters. And then Emily retaliates with just the most vindictive dialogue. There just seems to be no room for patience or compassion in this book at all. I guess you could say, oh, this is a reimagining, or, this is a fictionalized account or something. But even with that excuse, this is a reimagining for the worst. Like, if you wanted to draw out all the darkest parts of someone's life and then exaggerate them into a mess of sins and misdeeds and just ignore anything good that they may have done, then that would be this book. And on top of that, the artwork is not that great. The pen and ink style is not really attractive. Some panels actually look like the illustrator made it ugly on purpose to try to create drama or something. I mean, as if this story needed any more ugliness. They just had to add to it. I gave this 1 star. If I could give it -1 star, if I could give it -5 stars, then I would. This is just the most awful thing I've ever read. Oh my goodness. Okay, done with that. And then I read The Secret Garden. The original novel is one of my favorites that I reread over and over and over and over again because I love it. So then coming into the graphic novel, I have very specific ideas about how this story should go, and it was okay. It had some issues with storytelling, but it was lovely and I liked it. It had some flaws, but it was all right. I really loved the beautiful art style. The art is whimsical and sweet with lots of bright colors. However, I didn't like that there were so many tiny panels on each page. It just kind of felt too busy. There is very little dialogue, which makes it difficult to follow the story. In the original novel, we get to see this gradual character development of Colin and Mary, but with so little dialogue to give the reader clues about what is happening, then the characters, we don't get to see their internal journey, and so the characters seem to just leap ahead on this journey, and we're like, wait, what? All of a sudden they're nice now? Or all of a sudden they're friends? And we have no indication of what made them change. It just felt like too superficial, kind of sloppy storytelling. I wish that they had stuck closer to the original story. I ended up giving this 3 stars. And then I read 3 children's picture books. Giraffe and Bird, Giraffe Meets Bird, and Giraffe and Bird Together Again. I was so pleased when the publisher sent me these because this is such an adorable series, and Giraffe and Bird are just so cute. I loved every single book, the illustrations, the story. It's just adorable. And those are the books that I read in April. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know, what did you read in this past month? What was your favorite book that you've been reading? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.